Everybody starts, the entry one is the tough one, right? And building from there and making yourself indispensable is part of it. You know, part of that is getting out there and networking. Talk about the importance of networking for people that are just starting out there.
I think it's so important. My first really good internship was at Island Records, and when I was there, I learned there's a language in the music industry that people talk, and the higher up you go, people talk a subtle different language, and that's when you've been in it for a while and you get to a higher level, you can tell the people that are talking bullshit just because of the way they phrase things and the way they talk. And I think that those subtle things you can't learn from school. Like you have to be in it. Like, and I didn't even know I was learning that at the time, but looking back, that was when I really first, you know, that I think those kind of things, the subtle things, are really important, and internships, like, to me, is totally the best way of getting in the business.
I think it's so important, and I can't stress it enough to people out there that, you know, it is. You know, I was just up talking about, mentioned at the top show, I was up at this website up in San Francisco where they talk about, you know, photography is where their niche was, but they talk about it in detail. And there is a language, there is a local knowledge to it. And the guy who ran that thing had the same thing. He goes, you know, I learned about photography stuff, but I learned how to do it by doing it. Right. You know, there was no book that I could read that could make, you know, take the place of getting things right, and sometimes getting things wrong and going, fuck, I'm never going to do that again. Totally. It's crazy, you know. So networking is a big part. You mentioned that you met that you came to New York while you were still in college. I love that. Now, how did you get the money who'd you handle to get the dough for that one?
I was always working. I mean, like, I come from, you know, humble beginnings, I guess, and you know, I'm very financially responsible, so I always saved everything I got, and I've always had jobs, you know, in amongst the internships when I was at college, and I would just, you know, I'll just save money, and I just, you know, as music took over my life, I just knew I wanted to spend it on something, but I just didn't know what, and then I just, like, one day I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go to New York, and I know 2 people off MySpace, you know, barely had any conversations with them. I was like, I'm just gonna go there and just try and make it work. And it just, you know, it took a few trips. Like, I was going back and forth a lot, but it slowly started to, you know, to make sense.
It's funny. I first started going to England, you know, when I was a young promoter, and my mother worked for an airline, and I got hired to this promotion. I was the new guy in there, and the whole wave of mid-'80s bands were happening in the UK. Right. Love and Rockets and UB40 and Simple Minds and Billy Idol, and freaking I could go on, right? So I told my boss, I said, how about if I pay for the ticket? It was $100. My mother worked at an airline. Would you put me up for 2 weeks? And I started going over there. Same thing. I showed up in town. They go, well, who are you going to see? I go, I haven't figured that out yet, but I'm going to start by fucking going there, and started dialing up people, and that led to a whole bunch of great acts that were playing the Hollywood Palladium.